The Hindu editorial GST buoyancy. December's revenue signals some post-festive fervor in the economy. At almost 1.5 lakh crore rupees, goods and service tax inflows in December 2022 signal a recovery of sorts from November, when revenues fell to a 3-month low. November 2022 revenues were 10.9% higher than a year ago, but still marked the slowest growth since June 2021. December's revenues were 2.5% higher than November and reflected a 15.2% year-on-year uptick, while the 149,507 crore rupees GST kit in December is the third highest since the beginning of the indirect tax regime in July 2017. It may be more noteworthy than previous records. First, as these taxes are linked to economy activity undertaken in November. They indicate that factories and service providers were busier than they were in October, impacted little by post-festival consumer fatigue. Second, on the two other occasions that GST revenues were higher, 1.67 lakh crore rupees in April 2022 and almost 1.52 lakh crore rupees in October. The numbers were boosted by taxpayers' financial year end and reconciliation and pre-festive spending or stocking up respectively. This was not the case in December. Arguments that high inflation bolstered these numbers are only partly tenable. Headline inflation dipped to an 11-month low of 5.9% in November. Services inflation was flat sequentially and goods inflation was 6.2%, which is high but far lower than previous months. So, if inflation did nudge up revenues, it did not play any more of a role in December than it did in earlier months when price rise was higher. From what is known so far, the eight core sectors rebounded to grow 5.4% in November from a mere 0.9% in October, when industrial output tanked an alarming 4%. While November's industrial production levels will only be known later this month, the GST revenues indicate that the demand for both goods and services held up. As North Bloc mandarins enter the last lap of curating the union budget, the latest GST print should provide some hope while working out the fiscal glide path and revenue aspirations for the coming year. Not only have GST collections been over 1.4 lakh crore rupees for 10 straight months, December's healthy inflows lift up the average monthly intake of 2022 to 23 to 1.49 lakh crore rupees. But there is little room for complacency. Any slackening in economic activity due to global headwinds could drag down revenues too. The GST Council, which met briefly last month after a long break but left critical reforms hanging, must be convened soon after the budget, not just to help sustain revenue inflows but also to aim to rake in more from a rationalized rate structure which brings all the presently excluded items into the one nation, one tax ambit. Second editorial over the borderline. People on either side of a border should not be victims of international conflict. The government of India is paying a special attention to the development of border villages, especially from a security perspective. Union Home Minister Amit Shah said on December 29 that borders could be permanently secured only when border villages are populated by patriotic citizens who are concerned for the country. Mr. Shah asked the Border Security Force to effectively use the Vibrant Village Program (VVP) announced by the center in the 2022 budget to promote development and communication in border villages. The scheme is for funding development of border villages with sparse population, limited connectivity, and infrastructure that often get left out from the development gains. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had said in her budget speech in 2022. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said the scheme signified the government's holistic approach to ensure that these villages have all facilities. The Ministry of Home Affairs (MHA) informed Parliament on March 29, 2022 that plans were afoot for the convergence of existing schemes into the new one, and an implementation framework, fund requirements and other modalities were being finalized. The existing border area development plan of the MHA covers development of all border regions, and it is clear how VVP will be different from that. 1 year after it was announced, there is little clarity on the details of BVP, including on the question of whether it will cover all border areas or only the northern border with China as mentioned in the budget. The government has said BVP would cover construction of village infrastructure, housing, tourist centers, road connectivity, provisioning of decentralized renewable energy, direct to home access for Doordarshan and educational channels, and support for livelihood generation. There were also plans to open the villages along the China border in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and the Union Territory of Ladakh for tourists. The MHA recently informed a parliamentary standing committee that the budget provisions for the program have been sent to the Expenditure Finance Committee for its approval. Holding border areas close to the rest of the country is a dynamic challenge and requires a sensitive approach. Borders divide people of shared ethnic and cultural heritage who are unmoved by rivalries of nations that animate strategists. They could not be challenged to be the vanguards of patriotism. Thank you.